Let's say the motion was, as an alternative to multilateral institutions, this House welcomes the use of third-party intermediaries as a means of conflict resolution. This topic sets up a very clean comparative from the get-go, that it is about multilateral institutions versus third-party intermediaries. But that really isn't necessarily the case. If you are really reading the motion closely, it is specifically about the use of third-party intermediaries to the exclusion of or as a substitute for multilateral institutions. So these either happen in instances where multilateral institutions fail, or more generally, when multilateral institutions are undermined in the process of diverting political capital towards third-party intermediaries that facilitate conflict resolution instead. Having said this, let's say that government side makes the argument that multilateral institutions fail because strong powers have significant influence over the decision-making process in these institutions, such as how certain large military countries as part of the UNSC can delay or block multilateral action outright by using their veto. So they are essentially arguing that third-party intermediaries is a way to sneakily avoid this issue, because you can just subvert these large countries by turning to third-party intermediaries that are relatively more accessible. So the exercise for this video is, how would you respond to this argument using the concept of a true comparative? Remember, a true comparative is basically asking what the debate is about. In this case, we already know that the debate is not necessarily just about multilateral institutions versus third-party intermediaries. A true comparative, in this case then, can be revealed by acknowledging or even agreeing with the premise of the government case, that yes, large military countries have an incentive to sometimes block multilateral action for their security and ally interests, and it is likely the case that they will still be strong on either side of the House. However, this debate is not about whether strong military countries will try to exert their influence or not, but it is about whether we would prefer if strong military countries exert their influence through multilateral institutions, or if they attempt to do so by interfering and acting unilaterally as third-party intermediaries or in retaliation to other third-party intermediaries. And here, we have uncovered such a brilliant argument that the veto is sometimes necessary to overtly mitigate the worst excesses of violence and conflict that would otherwise happen if third-party intermediaries produce unfavorable outcomes to the detriment of those states. So these countries may enact sanctions, militarily intervene, or disrupt these negotiations in worse ways. In essence, we are saying that the use of third-party intermediaries exacerbate proxy wars, and that multilateral institutions are a stabilizing force for large military countries to check and balance one another in a formal multilateral platform. Alright, what did we learn in today's video? One way to uncover a true comparative is by looking at the assumptions of either side's arguments. And in this case, the general argument of government side assumes that large countries will suddenly be less influential without multilateral institutions, which is most definitely not the case, as we have argued. Alright, that's it for today's video. Have a wonderful day.